We all remember the rocky summer last year and the really rough start we had in the markets this year. But what does all of that have to do with China? Well, thankfully, we are going to get more information today on our Walser Wealth Wednesdays from wealth strategist and tax attorney Rebecca Walser. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm good, Natalie. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Well, we are excited you are here. And I got to say, China, I mean, I wouldn't have put us online with them, but you're saying there's a lot of information here.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people don't understand why we had the worst start to our economy ever in 2016. Yeah. So I brought our first chart, which I want to bring up here, and it shows you how closely right now the Shanghai Composite Index is with our actual market. You can see here in 2016, you see it's the highest correlation ever. This is a correlation chart between the Shanghai and the S&P 500. So what we're showing is that we are significantly in line, lockstep with the Chinese economy right now. You can see in 2008, 2009, an opposite and as opposed that was a U.S.-based, housing bubble, and the Chinese market was not correlated at all with our great recession in 2008, 2009. But in 2016, we are super correlated with them. So what happened with the worst start of our year is China, and specifically Shanghai, announced that China was going to pull back on its investments from a government perspective and move to more of a consumer-based economy. And the world, and specifically commodity prices, went completely down, and we had this major turmoil.
So why is this? Why does China affect our markets?
Yeah, well, the Chinese economy has been the largest and the fastest growing economy for the last 30 plus years. Our next chart, though, shows the problem with China's announcement at the beginning of the year that they would actually move to a consumer-based economy. So you can see here that in our population, we have about 320 million Americans in the United States. China has 1.385 billion, okay? So they're literally 4 times our size as far as population, which from a consumer-based economy would be a wonderful thing until you look at their underlying economics. So if we can pull up the next chart, we'll see that the United States, we have a GDP per capita, which means a GDP per American of about 54,000. And what that translates into is disposable income per American of about almost $40,000, okay? The Chinese, though, disposable income per Chinese is less than $3,000. So you can't have China announcing that they will pull back on investments and move to a consumer-based economy when their consumers can't afford to buy anything.
Wow. Okay, I actually get this. So is this something that we cannot just look at for the past, but learn from for the future?
What happened was when China announced they were going to pull back on their investments, the markets went crazy, and what they did is they injected $1 trillion, and now we're seeing is that trailing off, and so we have to be concerned about what's happening in China.
I was going to say, so really, what does it mean? What do we learn? How do we move forward? All of that kind of stuff.
Our economies are very intertwined, and so as China goes, unfortunately, our economy will be affected as well.
I was saying, and of course, we've got to get your advice on all this, because that is what you do. What advice do you have for people who sometimes pay attention to this or don't ever pay attention to this and sometimes are intimidated or excited? How can you kind of curb people's enthusiasm in a way?
The thing to know is that the global environment affects your portfolio, and so you need to have a strategy and a plan for the global and factors that are happening in the United States and the world in 2016.
I was going to say, so with the global portfolio, and while we are just wrapping up our time here, what would you tell people? What would you tell clients?
I mean, they need to be working with an expert that is aware of all these macroeconomic factors at the global level. I think that we have global stagnation, and that is going to affect portfolio opportunities and international opportunities. And so they need to be working with an expert that looks at these things and understands what's going on in the underlying fundamentals at a global level.
Yeah, I try to understand, and I understand your points when you break them down, but that's why you call someone like Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much.
Natalie.
We appreciate all of your tips. And again, for more information, you can reach out to her and her team, 866-929-3258, or just visit them online at walserwealth.com. Always a treat, Rebecca.
Thank you, Natalie. You too.